Your spine's natural function is flexion.
I explained once kettlebell training to someone. I forget the context of it, but I said it makes training your weaknesses feel good.
Before we can press a kettlebell, we have to make a good shoulder. Before we can do a goblet squat, we have to make a good hip.
Welcome to the Strength Connection Podcast, a show to share stories, insights, and experiences in strength, physically, mentally, and spiritually. I'm Michael Kurkowski, host of the Strength Connection, and I'm so grateful that you can join me today. So in these episodes, I connect with some of the most inspiring and successful individuals to chop it up and learn from true life experiences that have helped them become who they are, the strongest versions of themselves. One of the greatest ways I've always learned the most important lessons is through stories. We all have them, and they make us who we are. So let's dive in. Here we go. So today I'm joined by Peter Nieman, owner of Icebox Kettlebell in Port Orange, Florida. So I've known of Peter for quite some time. We have many mutual friends and connections in our world, and I've enjoyed following his content for quite some time. He has incredible grace in his movements, and his combination of both mobility and strength in his program, the hybrid strength model, it was really intriguing. So I asked if he would come on the show and talk about it. Peter's an incredibly smart and detailed coach, and what he practices and preaches is spot on in regards to what we should focus on in both mobility and strength, and also learning how to train intuitively. All right, so let's get right to it. Before we do, please show your support for the podcast. Make sure you subscribe and rate wherever you're listening, and also on our YouTube channel, The Strength Connection. Your support means everything to me. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Now, let's get on with the show.
Welcome back, everyone. Peter Nieman. Good to meet you, man. Thanks for jumping on.
It's great to be here, Mike. Thanks for inviting me, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you doing this. Dude, you're one strong dude. I love following your content, man. You put out a lot of good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoy what I do, man.
No doubt. So, yeah, I mean, I know from we've had some mutual friends, and I've seen the work that you do with FRC, with kettlebells, and kind of blending those together, which kind of we were just talking off air. I think it's something that a lot of people, they go right to the muscle side and the strength side, but the mobility, the joint health work is something we think we're kind of getting into, but you need to take, just as much of an approach and a laser beam focus into that as you do, with the strength piece of it. And I think it's a lot easier for people to not do that as easy. And I think you're just a great example of really blending both of those together. It seems really cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. The way it was worded to me, like when I went to my last cert for the internal strength model, is Andrea Spina, he's like the chairman of the whole thing, but he was teaching it. And the way he worded it was your connective tissue is the scaffolding for the architecture of your red muscles. So if you are making some kind of building, you obviously want good occupants, you want good things to be occurring in that building. But if your foundation isn't set, and if you use low quality materials to hold everything together, then, you're just going to fall apart eventually. It just takes the wrong gust of wind or the wrong tremor of the earth. So I just started seeing things in a different light after I started digging into this stuff, and it kind of reordered how I teach things. So I'm still a kettlebell practitioner. Like, it's still in my name online, still in my gym, but it's through everything I thought I knew through a loop. And it's been a very, very positive thing for me and my students. So.
Yeah. No, definitely. And that word foundations, right, of like setting up a foundation, it's an easy thing to say, but actually getting to the true foundation of where it's at. Like, you can have one model and say the foundations of this model, but it doesn't necessarily mean the foundations of the human body. It's much different from there. So awesome, man. Well, dude, I'm pumped to really hear all about it. First, I'd love to just know more about you. Kind of, how'd you get into this world? I know you're from Florida. You have your space down there, the Icebox Kettlebell down there. How did you get into the world of training? Were you always an athlete? Kind of always enjoyed this as a kid? Or?
So my whole thing was, my mother put me in dance when I was 5 years old, and I never liked it. I never liked going to class on Saturday morning with, a grouchy old lady barking directions at us. And I was the only boy, so I didn't fit in. And, I was kind of sequestered away into like a basement or whatever if I needed to change clothes. And it was just not fun for me. I wanted to be playing video games or playing with Legos or playing chess. But that whole experience, unbeknownst to me, that wired my brain for movement. And now proprioceptive activity, learning and acquiring new motor skills comes second nature to me, both in like our domain, like kettlebell, and moving and strength training, but also in music and minute movements as well. So the fine motor control comes easy to me too, just based on those things I was raised doing. So I didn't like it at the time. I was a dancer for 12 years, like tap and lyrical and hip hop and all that. Didn't like it at the time. I got teased, bullied for it, but now I'm super duper grateful I got to do all that. And
so you're in it for
never really did. Yeah. My mother insisted on it. She unfortunately passed away when I was 16, and then I graduated high school, and then I kind of exited dance. But then I started lifting weights, and this is kind of why I got the idea of being a trainer. I view myself as more of a coach now and a mentor, but I wanted to be a trainer because when I started lifting when I was 16, 17 years old, if you walk into any big box gym and you see a kid that age, like deadlifting or benching, their head's in the right place, but they are not doing anything correctly. And I definitely have messed myself up doing things incorrectly. So that kind of spurred the idea of me getting into this kind of thing. And I started training when I was 19. I worked at Valley Total Fitness when that was a thing. And just kind of bounced around in Michigan. And then when I moved to Florida, I started working at like private studios. And then 5 years ago, I opened Icebox. And this has been, it's been the craziest ride ever. It's been deeply and profoundly transformative. Just running and operating a business independently as a person who is not a natural business owner or a leader in this kind of way. So it's been really, really cool.
That's awesome. If there is such a thing, right? I mean, it's kind of such a learn from trial by fire in business ownership. So at that time, like
Right.
was there from dance to kind of strength training work, was there a gap of time? Like, did you go right from dance to getting into more strength and conditioning, or was there kind of a period of time when you're kind of just not really doing much? Or
I think when I was 17, like probably the summer of me being 17, that's when, that summer I went to like summer camp. I went on a missions trip to Manitoulin, which is in Canada. It's the largest island in a freshwater lake in the world, if you wanted any geography facts on this podcast. But when I was there, yeah, man. But when I was there, when you're a kid that age, like when you're a boy that age, you're kind of starting to test each other and see who can do more pull-ups, who can do more dips, who can jump off the highest cliff on the island. And that's when I realized that I suck at everything. I am not naturally gifted at anything strength related. So that is when I decided, all right, I'm going to join a gym and I'm going to not get any instruction. And I'm just going to try to figure this stuff out.
Yep. And
it's just like anything else. If you just think you can do it and figure it out, well, maybe you can, but probably not. You're going to be getting a lot more out of it if you just hire a professional. And I eventually did. And then that kind of got me moving towards this. But to answer your question directly, yeah, I mean, I've always been, it was a pretty quick transition from dance into this kind of thing. But it wasn't until I was like 24 when I discovered kettlebell and just started watching YouTube videos. If you were around for YouTube videos back in like 2013, 2014 for kettlebell, not a whole lot of like strict form stuff. It was more like, here's how you pass it around your body. And here's how you push it overhead like a dumbbell with it out here and your wrist bent backwards. That was before I got into Strong First or FRC. So I also sucked at kettlebells for a long time.
Yeah.
I changed that after that.
How'd you get introduced into it? I mean, you started when you were 19 at Bally, and then so there's like a 5-year block before you got into kettlebell work. What were you doing before? Was it kind of like a muscle group by muscle group type training, kind of doing like the split type training for a while, or what was early training of Peter Nieman about? Yeah,
I didn't have a home. I knew I liked the gym, but I was always on a machine, or I was trying to move a barbell, but it felt like work. I didn't want to, it wasn't intriguing for me. And the way I'm wired is if I find something to latch onto and I can master something, I will be dedicated to it. But sit down machines and treadmills are boring. And I was doing that and I didn't really have a home movement wise. And there were some kettlebells at a gym I worked at in 2013 and 2014 here in Florida. And just started like kind of messing around with them. They made no sense to me. I think I called them kettleballs back then. But I started moving those around. And then in 2018, I got certified through Strong First. Definitely went through the whole comrade phase where that was my whole identity. And then as the years went on, I developed myself into Icebox, which is something different than anything else.
Yeah, it is. What, like when you got into kettlebells, what was it that felt different? Was it like this is something that I can master? Did it almost seem a little bit kind of like almost your mentality around like with a dance background? Because dance is something it's a mastery pursuit, right? It's not just like, you don't just go and work out dance, right? I mean, usually the ones that stick with it, it's like, there's a different type of practice and mindset that goes into it. Did you see some similarities when you got into kettlebell training?
Yeah. Now I am hypermobile. Mm-hmm. So I never found any success with like Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting. I was terrible at all of it, and I was really unmotivated. But when I tried a kettlebell and I tried like a Turkish get up for the first time in 2013, and I got my first real injury doing that, my joints kind of automatically locked into place, and I can maneuver and contort myself underneath the weight. That's when I found that is my kind of hidden power. I don't have a whole lot of raw power, but I can be clever and I can manipulate myself and create structures within my movement to get myself under the weight. And that transitioned into bench press training. That was my true love. It is still. But yeah, kettlebell, it does have, you could draw parallels to dance, just the way, talking to Jared, like the crazy trainer, or anyone really proficient with like juggling, like Tiff.
Yep.
That you could definitely see how that would be carry over from dance, but hard style just made sense to me. And, it clicks with the way I was wired growing up as far as
Yeah, I explained once kettlebell training to someone. I forget the context of it, but I said it makes training your weaknesses feel good. It's like, so if you're hypermobile, like it helps like get you into the strength training piece of it. But on the same other side, if you have more of like that tight tendon, like strongman or powerlifting type background, it kind of puts you into the mobility and kind of makes that feel good as well. So it's kind of like whatever, if you're at one of the ends of the spectrum of where you are, this is kind of a good medium zone to kind of take what you already like to do and also build up on your weaknesses. So it's a little bit more complete in that.
Absolutely. Now, to kind of piggyback off of the tendon and hypermobility thing is I was definitely getting hurt and running into trouble by overextending myself. I could take a step the wrong way and I would overextend my knee, or just anything like that. My shoulders would get really crabby out of nowhere. And when I found FRC, so functional range conditioning, so I realized I could almost, I call it weaponized mobility or weaponized hypermobility, where before I was very, very prone to injury because I would overextend my joints. Mm-hmm. Now with FRC and the internal strength model, I've figured out and started training the scaffolding for all my red tissues. So this is way more fortified, and there's way less danger of straining anything and possible tears. So that is both a physical thing and a neurological thing as well, because your body isn't as nervous about getting into positions that may previously have gotten you into some pretty bad spots. So it's been an overall really, really good thing. Interplay with my mobility issue.
Yeah. So, did you find FRC work before you did kettlebell work, or did one come first?
Yeah, it was the other way around. Yeah. I was doing just kettlebell and a lot of just stretching and mobility drills and mobility sequences, and a lot of arm bars, a lot of bretzels, stuff I still use today, but just in a different way. But I knew that there was something missing in the equation when it came to my body and moving bells, because kettlebell does so much. It is such a great tool. I've built my business around it. It's phenomenal. But for me, it wasn't everything, because I was still running into trouble. I was still missing strength in some ways. And I knew that there had to be something else out there for this. And that was definitely an FRC. So now that I've kind of married these ideas, I have a very, very complete model of strength training. And that's really what the hybrid strength protocol is. That's still in development, right?
Beautiful. No, dude, I'm pumped to hear about it. Can you give a little bit of just a 101 description of what FRC is? I know kind of it, but it still kind of goes over my head because I haven't practiced it as much. And I know there's a lot of people who maybe have heard of it, but don't fully understand the full spectrum behind what it is.
Sure. So the one of the mottos in FRC is workspace is everything. So when we take a joint, we want to take that joint and increase the capsular space so we have a lot of wiggle room and a lot of room to work with. Mm-hmm. If you are not mobile and you have like a joint right here, say this is like your shoulder joint, we don't have a lot of space to work with. That capsule is really tight. So if I have someone do like a shoulder car and they can do like here, and then they kind of have to turn and they have to do this, their capsule is really, really tight. FRC has techniques to open up those capsules and strengthen them from the inside out. Mm-hmm. So we have both more room to work with, but also strength within that joint and capacity to move under load. So there's just techniques to get your joints one at a time or compound to a better place as far as function.
And so do you think, is it so things like just natural mobility drills and stuff like that, did they not work for you as much because you have some hypermobility, you probably have good elasticity in your muscles, but the joint space within your capsules, that was kind of the missing link that those don't get to?
Yeah, the reason it worked for me is twofold. One, you are correct. I had a lot of flexibility, but I didn't have usable mobility. So my body was really bendy. And the danger is my body will naturally do whatever I want it to do, even if it means sacrificing good form. So if I want to get down into a pistol squat really deep, my body's like, sure, man, let me just tear your QL while I get down there, or, get an intervertebral buckle in your spine. But the other reason that works is in my mind, I'm more of a compartmentalized person. Now, mobility drills you can take like a yoga reach where you're getting your hip extended, you're reaching forward, you're getting a little bit of thoracic rotation. There's like 4 things happening at once, and it's 4 mediocre-ish things happening at once. This drill is doing a bunch of stuff. Okay, it's opening you up and it's getting you primed for movement. Whereas, say you take cars, like your controlled articular rotations, that's just for your glenohumeral joint.
Right.
So we just take this one singular joint and we work that range of motion, and we see what kind of workspace you have. And we just focus on this one thing. And that makes sense in my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's just this one thing I had to focus on, and I can improve that and just kind of individualize things. So it just made a lot more sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Did you see an immediate difference when you started to work with FRC into other training modalities that you were doing?
Yeah. One of the biggest ones was actually training my spine. So we get this idea that you have to be neutral in your spine 24/7. And yeah, for structural support, like if you want to do a really good deadlift, yeah, you're going to want to evenly distribute that weight across your spine.
Right.
But your spine is made to move. We have this wiggle room. Your spine's natural function is flexion. And from that, we have extension. And as a bipedal animal, we have lateral flexion and lateral stabilizers as well. So if you want to be a good bipedal animal, you're going to have good capacity throughout your vertebra. And just training those individually opened up so much more as far as strength work, control, and injury prevention for me. So just working the spine directly was wild and just a huge step forward for me.
That was the biggest shift that I saw from doing some kin stretch work. As I said, my former partner was a kin stretch practitioner, and he did classes and taught me a lot of the pails and rails. You can go fuck yourself on those. Those things are so freaking terrible.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm joking, everyone. They're fantastic, but they are challenging, to really get down. But with the cars of doing like T-spine cars and scapular cars and stuff, I saw such an immediate change in movements that I thought I was pretty proficient with, like get-ups, like overhead pressing and stuff. But just that ability to go in and out of that space a little bit freer. It's right. All of a sudden like strength. It definitely felt good, and it felt like a little bit increased, but just the feeling and the grace within the movement felt so much better. And then leaving afterwards, like the energy of just having that freedom in the space, that was one of the biggest shifts for me. Like the shoulder, like felt it in doing hip cars and shoulder cars. I mean, it's beneficial and everything, but yeah, that was one of the biggest things for me, was working the spine, especially my upper spine, was just opening that up. That was immediately, I was like, okay, there's something to this. I need to explore this a little more.
Yeah, just a lot of unexplored ideas and maybe conventional training. Touching on cars a little bit more, that is such a neat system because it's so many things in one. It's mobility drills, but it's also a diagnostic tool to see where someone might need more work and what to address. We're taking a shoulder car and our extension back here and our internal rotation sucks. Well, there's a lot of pails and rails. There's a lot of different things we can do to increase capacity and load bearing capacity for those things, just to open up access in your brain for those ranges of motion and to prevent injury, because your brain is going to be used to you being back here. So if you put yourself in a position where you've never been before and your elbows are in a strange spot, you might not be using the right stuff, and you might put a lot of strain on something that's not meant to bear that load. And that's where you can really run into trouble. But if your brain's been there before through the drills you've been doing, it's way better equipped for that type of movement.
Yeah, that's a huge point. I think one of the great benefits of kettlebell training, I hate the term like total body exercise, but it's really like one of the best things. You can train your body as one unit. It's very athletic.
Right.
But also on the flip side of that, like if you're training your body as one unit, well, if your unit's not speaking to each other well and it doesn't know what's going on, that's when some things can go awry, and injuries and tweaks and stuff like that can pop up. So it's greatly beneficial, but putting that same amount of effort into some mobility and specific joint work in there is probably going to be, so if you want to really get into the strength game and really keep elevating it up, spending some more very focused time on mobility is going to be just as vital and just as important as all the other training. And I think it's very easy. I don't know if you've seen this with clients or if they, but I've seen it a lot where it's very easy just to, oh yeah, it's stretched out. I'm warmed up. It's like you just want to get to the fun stuff. It's like we just want to start swinging some bells around and throwing some things over our head. When in reality, no, put the same amount of effort into mobility. It's going to do way more wonders for you.
Right. I almost think we need a new term because mobility just doesn't, it's not.
It's weak.
Like a huge thing with my program is the mobility is hard to sell. It's hard to, especially men, like it's hard to really get people latched onto this idea that doing this stuff will make you stronger. You're almost leaving money on the table by not training in this way. And getting people to see that just like tissues, like just how like your connective tissues and your red stuff all kind of melds together. The mobility work, like your cars, your hails and rails, your eccentrics, that slowly morphs into your strength training. And that's kind of the basis of the internal strength model is you're stretching and you're working range of motion, but you're also building tendons and tissues from the inside out. So you're completely rebuilding yourself from the tendon to the muscle fiber. And it's really cool to see people connect the dots in their head and actually implement this stuff.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, and probably once you get buy-in on it and just see the benefits, then it's easy. But just getting that first initial step down is the challenging piece.
Yeah, I mean that's like for my newest program. It's like, all right, what do I call this thing that it makes it sound really badass? Okay, not mobility program, the hybrid strength protocol.
Oh, there it is.
It doesn't. Yes. So I'm not going to tell you what the hybrid is, but
yeah, just don't worry about. Yeah, no, hybrid does sound a lot better. So this is a new So you've been developing this program. Essentially, what was the mission behind this? Was it about kind of trying to bring these two modalities together, or is it more than that?
Yeah, I mean that's my career goal now is to just bring this world of kettlebell and your strength training and bring this world of joint function and mobility and just fuse them into one. It's almost like taking quantum mechanics and your standard model and fusing them together into a theory of everything. It's what I really, really want to achieve in my career. Just to have this really, really good grand unified model of training that covers absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. So that's really what Icebox it stands for, is finding the theory of everything for training. And so, I mean, the hybrid strength protocol is just the first steps is just teaching people how to move their joints. So before we can press a kettlebell, we have to make a good shoulder. Before we can do a goblet squat, we have to make a good hip. So I train a lot. Like this is all stuff I kind of learned through experience training retirees. So I'm in Florida and I'm on the retired side of Florida. Yeah. The boring retired side of Florida.
Is there one side of Florida that's that? It seems like
it's all over the place. It's all over the place.
No, I lived in Fort Myers for a bit, so I understand Florida. Yeah.
No, I'm just jealous of my buddies that live over on the West Coast and like St. Pete and Tampa. But no, this is just a bunch of, we'll just say older AARP demographic.
Sure.
Many of them are listening. But just learning from working with them is we can't just tell them to do something. Like you can give them all the cues you want. Like, all right, we're going to rack this bell. All right, we're going to drill your feet in. We're going to need a radiation from the floor up, and then we're going to put it overhead. But if Sally, who's been an accountant her whole life and has only ever been in this position,
Right.
you have a lot of translation forward in your humeral head.
Yeah.
She ain't gonna be able to do that with a belt. So why the hell would we load a shoulder that can't get overhead with a press?
Mhm.
So I was running into these kind of issues over and over again. And how do I get people into these positions? And there weren't a lot of clear answers out there. So cars, pills and rails, FRC in general, that supplied me with all the know-how to help people get there. Since I started doing this with people, there have been no injuries. And that's been excellent for retention on a business standpoint.
Yeah.
But so the program itself is right now, it's about 60% of our mobility and then 40% body weight and kettlebell. And the way I'm structuring it is after your first month, like the second, the third, the fourth, we're doing specific things. Like we're making the shoulders. We're going to be doing things for internal, external rotation in your shoulder and making sure we are primed for overhead pressing. And it's just training your body to directly work every fiber from the inside out in that joint and applying it to external load, moving weights. So that's the whole idea behind it, is taking a joint that we want to move and we want to develop and specifically training that and improving it and priming it from the inside out, just so we have full horsepower from that joint in particular.
I love that.
That just kind of goes throughout the weeks.
I love that. Do you have a assessment process that you do kind of at the beginning to know, is there like a specific protocol that you do with everyone as far as like getting into proper shoulders, proper hips? Or do you look at it more on kind of like an individual basis to be like, all right, like Jeff needs a lot more shoulder work in here, and Sally needs, more hip work here. How does that work when you like first approach somebody new that you work with?
So that's another really cool thing about cars. So in the past, like I still have my FMS, like the functional movement screen. I've done pretty much every assessment under the sun, and they're great. Like FMS really paints a good picture. But I found that the FRC in cars is such a good Swiss Army knife of, all right, this is the same stuff we can do every time for pretty much everyone that will tell us everything we need to know going forward. So if someone comes and sees me in person, we talk like you should be talking and asking them important questions. But then we start jumping into cars and we do the same thing, the same questions. Everyone's the same machinery, and we can see what's really going on by using the standard protocol. And there's a lot less energy output from the coach's side trying to figure out, all right, what should I use for this person? How do I set this thing up? You just run the process like you would everyone else. It's a very safe process, and that tells us pretty much everything we need to know. So see what they do with 10-point cars, run it just like you would for anyone else. Yep. And that kind of tells you where to go. And that's more of that kind of runs the flow chart of FRC. That delves into the internal strength model, and that actually kind of shows you how their strength program is going to look. And I can see that from the first time I talk to them.
Right.
So it's really efficient. It's a really good energy saver from a professional standpoint, because I can already see what the framework is for developing a program for them. It's not starting from scratch with everyone. It's really nice.
I really like that. I like you approach it that way. And I'm sure you probably evolved it over time of doing it that way. Cause I used to, for a while as a coach, get into the habit of so laser focusing on every individual aspect, like every person, every body is different. And yeah, in many cases that's true, but you can also systemize it down into like everybody has two arms. If they have two arms, two legs, and a torso, like you're going to see certain things. Like if you get a little bit of each thing for each person, okay, as the plan goes on, you're going to see who needs a little bit more of, what they're doing at certain cases. But yeah, to systemize it, I think is so important, to do it. And I think it's a good lesson for specifically young coaches to continuously have like that specific says, I used FMS for years. And I think it's a great tool for an assessment, but I kind of view it more of like, it's a good landscape picture. Now, if we want to get into the details of it, it's more stuff of like, I think like, cars, mobility work there, some correctives, even with, kettlebell work, you can do some corrective work in there too. So it's good to have like the big landscape assessment that everybody can fit into, and then individualize it a little bit more there.
I also like how cars and this kind of mobility stuff, it's just body. Like I'm not taking this board and setting up a little rubber band across two posts and having you knock it over as you try to do a hurdle step over it. It's right. Half joking when I say that. I love the FMS, but it's pretty much, hey, you want to develop your shoulders? All right, let's run you through a few things and we can do it right now. Because I've encountered people out like in the wild who are like friends of friends and, hey, we've seen you online. Like, tell me about what you do. And I just tell them, all right, drill your feet into the floor, watch me. Let's take your neck through full range of motion. So it's just, you can do it right then and there. There's no onboarding really.
Yeah. So the 60% you've got down with the cars, kind of getting that mobility. Now going into the 40% with the strength, are there specific, like, what are the movements that you love to work with people you think have the most carryover into really developing strength quick?
The 60%, it starts with cars. There's different levels of cars too. Mm-hmm. Like you can go into more room restricted, like level 2, where we may be blocking something, putting you up against a wall so you can't cheat. And level 3 was where we're adding actual load to your cars. So that and your pails and rails and your eccentrics and all the stuff involved there, that kind of gradually bleeds into that 40%. So it's kind of like if you remember growing up, I really enjoyed these candy sand tubes, and you can make them yourself. But the way it worked was you'd start with like green candy at the very bottom, and then gradually you poured the red sand in, and that stuff would never stay separated and start to kind of meld together. Okay. So it's the cars, the mobility kind of starts blending into, okay, this is more tension now. And that tension stuff starts bleeding into, okay, now we're using a kettlebell for this. And then this kettlebell, okay, now we're doing snatches for this set time. So it's all one big continuum. And I like things that are just connected like that and not really, compartmentalized in that sense. So as we get more advanced, things just kind of flow together.
Nice.
If that made any sense at all.
Yeah, no, I agree, because of doing kinship, like there's such a strength component to working on mobility. Like I've had to like have like a recovery day after doing like kin stretch work, more so than doing some of the other strength work that I did, probably because my body's just more accustomed, to doing that. But it's a challenge, to work specifically as something that you need, like getting into pails and rails in the hips. Like it is a challenging thing that is going to impact your strength quite a bit. Do you keep that, like, as someone continuously evolves and they keep getting stronger and, increasing and working on their mobility, does that 60-40 pretty much still stay like of what they're doing? Does it shift a little bit more to strength and a little bit less mobility, or kind of what's that look like?
Depends on what you're looking for. If we're talking like, if you're working with me one-on-one, now I'm currently working with someone who wants to do the SFG1 in September. Now, he's pretty darn close. So we're kind of tending away from, okay, joint construction, connective tissue architecture stuff. No, now we're programming snatch EMOBs. Now we're programming how do you correctly do a get up on, under a 24 kilo bell. He's looking for that. He's not looking to improve his 90 pails and rails. He wants to do his kettlebell, and
he's got the weekend.
He wants to be comrade now.
Yeah.
But it's different for everyone. Now, the thing with like a mass online program, you're gonna have to take the tools I gave you and apply them to your own program, unless you want to work with me directly. But it's a good set of tools for anyone trying for any kind of strength goal is, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. So
Yeah.
what's like your training like now, like what you do? Because I see a lot of the work that you do. I mean, you're a strong dude. Do you follow a very structured based plan and program, or do you do more intuitive kind of approach now?
Yeah, I mean, programs never. This is kind of it feels taboo to talk about this, but I don't like do programs for myself. Like I see now for a lot of, if someone has a very direct goal, all right, I want to press this weight by this date. Okay, we have to program that. Yeah. This is going to take super structured work. I'm kind of a wanderer. I like to play with things. Like I just learned how to do landmine, like clean and jerks. Yeah, I was in Austin with my buddies, and I'm like, this is the shit. I want to learn how to do this really well. And I never even like tried it before. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, it's okay. I see this landmine. Now I must choose this weight by this date. No, I'm going to dick around with it until, I feel really, really comfortable with it. To put this into context, I really wanted to do the Beast Tamer through Strong First, like early last year. So a friend of mine and I, she wanted to do the Iron Maiden, I wanted the Beast Tamer. So we did this really strict programming, and we were like gunning it like every weekend, trying to, meet up and push it, this really strict time frame. And I was like, one, I'm getting bored. Two, I just feel like I'm beat up right now. And it was a really tight time frame. But what that showed me for working out myself is I like to take a general idea of like, all right, I want to make my tactical pull-ups really good. I want to make my strict press really good. I want my pistol squat really good. I'm just going to take time with that. And actually, my friend Colleen, she was doing a decathlon. Well, she had planned one for April, and I'd signed up for it. I started training for like these 10 lifts. Oh, you did? Started doing these things all the time. And it unfortunately didn't happen, but I kept on training for those 10 lifts. And I just took that general idea of, I want to get better at this, this, and this, and I'm just making it a part of who I am. So I'm always going to be good at it. So I took the bent press before, and I'm like, I'm obsessed with this lift. I want to be the master of this lift one day. And I just make it a part of myself. So I just take ideas and I just touch on them every week. There's no real overarching, rigid structure to it. I just like to play, tinker and master, and just get a little bit better at these ideas every week. And if it can make me look good, I'll do it. Now I do hypertrophy work, and I do follow the internal strength model some days. Yeah. But there's a lot of days where I wanted to go to the beach yesterday. I had a bad day. So I went to the beach. I didn't do anything, just walked. So I just kind of sniff around and tinker and do my thing, and it works out pretty well for me.
I think that's great. Yeah, Colleen messaged me about that decathlon. I was like, hell no, sorry, I ain't doing that. Colleen's the best. She's awesome. I've had her on the show before. It's interesting because over the last couple of years, I've resonated more with like the approach that you do for training. Like I went more of an intuitive approach for a while, using like I did a lot with Brett Jones and his iron cardio work of just kind of seeing what feels best for the day, kind of as I think Adam Glass and Frankie Ferris put, it's like, go to your training with a question rather than an answer. So say like, what does my body feel like doing today, rather than, all right, this is exactly what I need to do. It's Monday, so it's Monday, so it's bench day. And for a while, this is where I got a hang up though on it, because I started working that in with clients like right away, of kind of like getting into an intuitive approach. And I realized like, I think you need to develop a certain level of just either discipline or just kind of some consistency of stuff, of a little bit of structure first. And then like the next step is being a little bit more open, a little bit more free, kind of have that more like, intuitive, sense to it. So that's kind of what I found down the line of like, I think it's a great idea, But I think if someone's interested in intuitive training and going to that approach, there might be some guidelines you need to follow first in order to get there to make it really successful.
For sure. I think you need to have some work on mastering different movements before you can start just kind of playing around with them. So some direct, all right, let's build your Turkish get up. Let's actually structure this for a while. You got it. All right, you can go crazy with it, revisit it again, and just kind of take that approach. But man, the approaching training with a question versus an answer, I never heard that before, and I really like it because the way I've put it lately, both with my students and the people that follow me online and myself, is each workout is just a conversation with your body. So your cells communicate with force, and the way you're transmitting that force is the type of conversation you're having. Now, depending on how your body is feeling, it's probably going to need a certain tone of conversation. If you are stressed, if you just had a really big fight with your wife, if you just got a really bad situation at work going on, if you didn't sleep well, it's almost like someone, or like your best friend, and they're really beat up and they're down in the dumps. Well, you're not going to be ribbing them and making fun of them and treating them like crap.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. You're probably going to be a little more supportive and gentle and a little more soft spoken. And the same thing applied to me viewing my body. If I felt beat up, I'm not going to look at the program and say, too bad, today is heavy day, and go for it anyway. No, that's how you fuck yourself up.
Absolutely.
So,
exactly.
Having the freedom of having a gentler conversation with your body when your body needs that kind of approach, that is good programming, I think. And just having that ability to waver around and just feel for what you need, that was a big point of maturity for myself as a coach and as an athlete.
Yeah.
Not being so rigid in a program.
I think that's the goal that we all want to get to, whether we know it or not. I think especially in the fitness industry, everything is so geared towards beginners, people doing nothing to doing something. And at that point, it's like, you really don't even fully know what it is that you want. Like, you just know that where you are at the moment is not where you want to be. So getting some structure, just getting something going, you're going to feel the benefits. But I think eventually we all want to get to that flexibility where we have choices, we have options. It's like, okay, I don't feel good today. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to have it there because I know tomorrow I can come back and I can have another conversation with my body and see what it needs to do. It's like, I think we all eventually want to get to that point. And I think that's really the pursuit of mastery. Like, that's the sharpening the saw every day. And all right, I'm going to play with this movement today. All right, I'm going to try this out. All right, now I'm going to scratch the itch and really push it today because it's time to push it. That's that energy day.
Yeah, it's almost like the acquisition of knowledge versus wisdom. You can follow a program rigid and get really good at lifts and gain all that knowledge, or you can have conversations with your body and get that wisdom. Yeah. Where we can gun it today. I've got the reserves. I have the horsepower today. Or if I go heavy today, I might have a full mental breakdown. And having that insight is super important as a coach, because that's the acquisition of wisdom.
Yeah. It's tough too, because sometimes you just have that fucked up day and you just want to like go after it and just, hammer it home and just push it. It's like, I get it. Like, I totally understand it. It's like you want to go for that PR because you want to get that win for the day. But to have that just step back conversation with yourself and just doing it. That's why I think cars is such a valuable thing, because put it into your mobility work. You're going to feel better afterwards. And then, do a little strength piece, forward. I think you're probably going to exert the same amount of energy that you need.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Kinstretch a lot, and I think the tagline for Kinstretch is do anything. I could be mistaken, but I think it's do anything. And that's kind of like where I want to be as an athlete. I don't want to be so specialized in one particular lift that I'm like a glass cannon and I can do that one thing. But if I try to squat a barbell or like try to, try a new move with a landmine, it's going to break me. I want to be able to do everything. Like if I see something cool, if I'm at the park and I haven't done the monkey bars in 20, 30 years and I feel like doing the monkey bars, it's not going to tear my shoulders off if I want to try that. I want to be able to adapt to things I want to do that will make me happy.
Yeah.
And that's really what my goal is right now.
Yeah. I think that's the best goal for all of us, is be able to do anything. Yeah. To have that just ability to step into any arena and be able to have fun with it, to be competitive in it and really enjoy it and see that you can build some progress on it regardless of what it is. I was always similar. Like I always like to be like good at a bunch of things, work on a couple things and try and get to an elevated level, but still kind of have, a good understanding of each thing. That's why I love doing this podcast, because I get to listen to a lot of different people and their stories and, learn, more about, their journey. But there's something more about FRC combining with strength training that I think is so powerful, that I hope more people understand. Because some of the strongest people that I've met, from you, Michael Willie, I don't know if you know him in Florida. Yeah, you probably know Mike. My former partner, Chris Abbott, Grayson Strange. Like, these are some of the strongest pound for pound people that I've ever seen, all working both ends of the spectrum, joint mobility and, strength work together. So yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. I mean, watching guys on social, I do follow a lot of really big, tanky guys who can lift just massive amounts of weight. But if you watch them and you see them like pushing a dumbbell overhead, they're like,
yeah,
that. Whereas if you take someone who is maybe a little smaller and leaner and you see them bench pressing something crazy, but they're keeping a straight face or even maybe just smiling, you give it like a wink, having that showmanship and that neurological control, that's more impressive than raw power. And I think having full control of your body and having confidence in your own movement, that's what gives you the ability to do stuff like that. That's where that's the coolest thing for me. That's what I look for now.
Yeah. The first crazy thing like that, I remember I got a chance to work with Mike Willie I assisted with him down in Florida, and I saw him do a 48 kilogram dragon pistol. So, and all of a sudden I just looked, I'm like, what did you just do? It was like one of those, like, did somebody actually just do that movement right there? Because it was the first time I kind of saw that, plus like a weighted type movement. I was like, oh, I'm like, okay, there's a different, level up here of just full connect, and so graceful in that movement. That's why I think, dance is it's an interesting background that you have with that, because I've, met people who have dance backgrounds, and it's this kinetic tissue. It's almost this appreciation for the body and for what movement is, almost like there's a built-in gratitude to it from that practice that almost you can see in their training when they go in there perform.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at someone's, like, say you take a 40-year-old and you ask them to do something, you can usually tell if they've had some experience in moving around previously in their life, whether it's like you can usually tell when someone's a gymnast. I wish I would have gone into gymnastics, but if someone was a dancer or a gymnast, or they even like played soccer or anything like that, versus someone who's really not done anything physical in their whole life, the difference is staggering.
Yeah.
The way the brain's wired.
100. So, Peter, dude, you're awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time and chatting with me. I love the work that you're doing, and with the hybrid strength model, I think this is awesome. So I'm really excited to see where it continues to go and to grow, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. If people want to follow you, just keep up with all the content that you're doing, where's the best place that they can check you out?
Instagram, it's Icebox Kettlebell, ICEBOX_KETTLEBOX.
Awesome, man. Dude, appreciate you, man. Listeners, thank you so much. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to the Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.